Think importing supplements is a gold mine? Well, it could be, but only if you avoid the costly traps that I've seen in 20 plus years dealing with the FDA and supplements. So in this video, I'm going to show you where most go wrong and how you can import supplements the right way and ultimately help you decide if the profits truly outweigh the hassle. So the requirements around importing supplements can get a bit complicated, and this is where a lot of brands mess up, but it's actually based on common sense. And once this clicks in, your mind and everything else will fall into place. So imagine you're at Subway and you ask for a foot-long turkey sub. You pick your bread, the toppings, sauce, and then bam, you've got yourself a pretty tasty sandwich every time with no surprises. Because Subway handles the quality, the suppliers, even the glove changes. All you do is you have to order and pay. Now picture the supplement industry. It's nothing like that. One Subway can give you a 10-inch sub with mystery meat on there, and then another makes you wait forever and hands you something that looks nothing like a turkey sub. And as for hygiene, well, you really have no idea. And that's what it's like buying supplements from different manufacturers, this whole total inconsistency issue. And if you're importing, well, it's like ordering from a Subway in another country. Their rules, their ingredients, their standards, not yours. So the end result is that you just get this wild swing in quality, in ingredients, in expectations, and a lot of headaches. So pitfall number one is thinking that importing supplements is as easy as ordering online. And the reality is it's not. Overseas manufacturers are experts in their own country's rules, but not yours, not the US. The good ones look to you for that direction on the specific US requirements. And the bad ones, well, they don't say anything because if anything goes wrong at the border, well, it's your issue, not theirs. As for pitfall number two, and that is thinking that your manufacturer or logistics broker will handle compliance for you. So let's talk shipping. Your shipping broker's job is to move the goods, not to make sure that they meet US and FDA rules. That's on you. They're going to list you as the importer of record and technically the FSVP importer, but we're going to talk more about that later. So the quick takeaway here is that you're legally on the hook if things go sideways. So what does that mean for you? Well, importing supplements isn't like ordering a sandwich. It's more like screening a tenant for your rental property. You wouldn't just let anybody move in, would you? You're going to check their backgrounds, their pay stubs, maybe even their bank accounts. Similarly, customs and the FDA are kind of like the landlords for the entire US. Before your goods can get in, they want proof that everything is up to standard, everything is up to code. And if not, you, your company, will face the consequences. You need to spend the time to make sure that your overseas manufacturers and the products themselves meet US supplement requirements. That means asking the right questions, not being afraid to walk away from these manufacturers, being specific about what you need, and demanding proof, so that you're ready if FDA does ask you questions. And realize that all this compliance responsibility falls on you, on your brand. If there's a problem, customs and the FDA come to you, not your manufacturer, not your shipping broker. So have all your documentation ready because your brand, your business, and inventory are on the line. So the next question is, great, what do I need to do right now? Like, what documents should I be asking for? Well, the FDA's answer is buried in this monster requirement called the Foreign Supplier Verification Program. But don't worry, I'm here to make it simple. So let's break it down with a saying that you'll hopefully remember, and that is, fascinating founders launch things perfectly. That's FFLTP. F is for facility. Your manufacturer needs to be FDA registered. Think of this like getting a business license for the factory. But that's not enough. A business license only speaks to whether you can operate, but not how you operate. And for that, you'll want to get a third-party GMP certificate, which means that they follow good manufacturing practices, but you want it specific for US dietary supplements because that has its own set of unique rules to manufacturing that's different from a lot of other countries. And to go one step further and even better, get your hands on that audit report tied to that certification. The other F is for formula. Your supplement recipe has to play by US rules. That means using only approved ingredients at safe and effective amounts. That also includes making sure that the non-active ingredients, excipients, are also allowed. So if you want to say that your product not only works, but is also safe and healthy, well, it needs to be legal and legit. L is for label and labeling. Labels must be flawless as it's a reflection of your attention to compliance. If your label is sloppy, well, that's a signal that you're likely ignoring compliance. And because your inventory is crossing the border, every shipment is like a test. And if your labels aren't perfect, well, the FDA will catch it, whether it's the first or 15th shipment. And don't forget labeling, which can be anything seen as an extension of your label. Think website, landing pages, ads. We've seen FDA dive into a brand's website as part of the inspection process, so you want to get these right as well. T is for testing, and testing isn't just send it to the lab and hope for the best. It's like asking someone to make you a pizza, and unless you tell them what size, what toppings, and how thick the crust should be, you're never going to get what you expect. You and your manufacturer have to agree on exactly what the lab should test for and get it all in writing. This is called your product specification sheet, and it's imperative that you set it to US standards. And because we're dealing with overseas manufacturers, they tend to default to fairly loose parameters. If anything, it's on the basis that it's okay to do it in their own home country, or that other customers or other brands haven't had any issues. It's all talk, right? Because if there's a problem on testing, it's going to be a really tough one to get out of. So be sure not to skip this crucial step. And finally, P is for prior notice. This is your way of telling customs, hey, my shipment is coming. Imagine a mystery box that you didn't order showing up at your doorsteps. You're going to be suspicious, right? And it's the same with customs. If you don't give them a heads up, your product will get stuck, returned, or destroyed, and you may be flagged for the next shipment. And because now that you're a fascinating founder who wants to launch things perfectly, you are now armed with a much better idea of what you have to do and collect as you continue your search for an overseas supplier. I know many of you watching are going to attack this like a bulldog. You're going to start asking questions right away, request information right away, and then before you know it, you're flooded with a lot of information that you need to make sense of. So let me give you an example. If I asked you, is this person a good accountant? And then I showed you their calculator or a stack of spreadsheets and maybe let you watch them crunch some numbers or balance a ledger, would you really know? Maybe, maybe not, but unless you're an experienced accountant yourself, it's really tough to judge if they're actually any good. It's the same for supplements. The FDA expects you to use an overseas supplier that is up to standard, but they also know that you might not have the expertise to make that call. That's why they require you to bring in a pro, aka a qualified individual, someone with experience and qualifications to vet suppliers, and more specifically, to create a specific set of procedures to keep your company compliant with the Foreign Supplier Verification Program, or FSVP for short. So if you're a US-based company wanting to import products from China, you're going to be the FSVP importer. That means your company is responsible for fulfilling all the FSVP requirements, which boils down to having people with the experience to ensure that your company is following all the procedures set out by the Foreign Supplier Verification Program. Here's what that actually looks like. Creating standard operating procedures for how to choose, approve, or reject suppliers. It's kind of like checking in on that accountant's credentials and track record before trusting them with your finances. You're gonna have to set up routines to check that the manufacturer is doing exactly what they promise and making sure that that happens regularly. You're gonna have to establish corrective action plans for when things go wrong, because something is going to go wrong. And having all these documents ready to hand over to the FDA within 24 hours if they should ever ask for them. On the surface, it might feel like a lot. Well, it's probably because it is, but it's also common sense. If the IRS had questions about your finances, to have a real accountant who can act fast, knows the numbers inside and out, and can produce documents quickly so that your audit is just a blip on the radar and the IRS is happy. It's the same for your business, and the FDA does spell that out very clearly in the Foreign Supplier Verification Program. So it's not just the sensible thing to do, it's also the compliant thing to do. So let's tackle two big questions that you're probably thinking about right now. The first one is, Brian, are all these cheaper brands that I see on Amazon really jumping through all these hoops to import these products? And the answer is probably not. Think of it like when cars first hit the roads. There were no seatbelts, the windshields were made of glass that would shatter dangerously, there were no brake lights. People just bought cars and hoped for the best. That's what I think we're seeing with these brands on Amazon. They just pick a supplier online, slap their name on the paperwork, but they don't truly understand what it means to be the official importer. And maybe things are working until it doesn't, and something goes wrong, and then everything comes crashing down. As for the second question, is importing even worth it, or is it just a massive headache? Well, here's the thing. It's always easier to prepare than to fix a disaster later. If you're new, I usually say stick to local suppliers, not because the rules are different, but because there's just less hassle. And when you're new, it's a lot to start a brand. Dealing with overseas suppliers means time zone differences or language barriers and less accountability because, well, good luck trying to sue a company in China. But if you've crunched the numbers and the margins make a lot of sense and you're ready to put in the real work and maybe lose some sleep along the way, then for sure, go for it. But don't forget to add up all the hidden costs. And that means the risks of when testing goes wrong, or when you get a flood of customer complaints, or that your product is going to be held at customs for 6 weeks, as well as the upfront compliance costs to set up your entire FSVP program. It's more than just the price tag of the product. Clearly, starting a brand has a lot of moving parts, and that includes picking the right manufacturer, nailing down your launch, and doing it all in the right order. And if you want to know more about how to do that, check out this video right here. All right, I'm going to leave it there for now. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.